Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard about it, read about it. But have you ever seen a psychedelic circus? Those innocent, fun games of the hallucination generation? Here you will meet the swingers, the hipsters, the beatniks, and the acid heads who live from pill party to pill party.
This is the Long in the Boot podcast, the podcast coming to you from the heel of the boot of Southwest Louisiana. I am your host, G Long, and across the way, as always, in her Lyle Lovett shirt, is Deb.
Hello, all. Yeah, I'm a bit of a T-shirt collector. I've been well.
Yes. Well, as well as you can be this time of year.
Well, weather's been good. So if the weather's nice to us, it's life.
If you'd like to reach the Long in the Boot podcast and tell us about the weather where you live, the number is 337-502-9011. The email address is longintheboot@gmail.com. And, of course, our website, longintheboot.com, for all your episode needs.
Yes.
And by the way, feel free, if there's like a little piece of something you need from any of those websites, you're more than allowed to use it. It's I'm not like...
Well, wait, then somebody could take our images and go create some nasty memes.
They can now.
Oh.
So, I mean...
Yeah, that's
why
true.
not?
That's true.
You know what?
I'm not suing anybody.
Nothing is bad when it comes to advertising.
Well, if you say it in all caps, it's realer.
In caps.
Yes, you have to say it
Realer?
in caps. It's realer.
Keeping it real.
Yes. I do not allow Facebook, Twitter, anybody to use my information and my data.
That comes around like once.
And I'm saying it in all caps so they know I mean it.
It comes around like once a year.
What the hell do you
think
that
Where people post
does?
all that stuff on Facebook about not using your images and stuff that you've posted to Facebook. And this, again, information for everyone out there. The end user license agreement, or as
none of us read,
or as the kids call it, the it has all the pertinent data in there, and all of your information
you've agreed
to. In fact, you have to let Facebook have access to your microphone as well as your camera.
Yes.
And your phone, basically,
and your GPS,
in order to use, and every app on your phone, for the most part, has the same thing in the end user license agreement. And again, I would like to stress that chances are, if you're one of these folks that believes that the devil is out there trying to collect souls, then I have a feeling he's already collected plenty inside the end user license agreement, because, well, they're usually pages and pages and pages long, and buried deep in there somewhere, I am sure it says, I, Bob Smith, grant Satan the soul of my firstborn child.
It's all your data.
We've
already given it away. We're all here doing this together. So I guess we just jumped in because we figured, well, if they've got everybody, then I might as well go along.
And as you could tell by the opening there, we're talking about something pretty exciting, and that's school testing.
You lured them in. Fished in, people fished in. Okay, did we need to talk about, was there any local business that we need to talk about that I know of right now? I know we've got some little places opening, got a little gift shop and a couple other things in the Longville, Ragley local area for that.
And, of course, T. Doug's Restaurant. Oh, and coming up in April, the big vote for Ward 6.
Yes.
For alcohol.
Yes, alcohol sales in the area. We can't vote on that because we're not part of Ward 6, but
you Ward 6 people, you need to get off your dead butts and get down there and vote yes, so that T. Doug's can serve a beer with a meal.
Yeah.
And then maybe another restaurant might come, or maybe a grocery store.
We might get a grocery store if there's actually, you know what? Profit is what drives.
We're going to have 2 lumber yards, basically.
Yeah, but we can't have a beer.
Well, I think maybe one of those lumber yards
tools?
should be looking at getting a liquor license if we get beer.
What the hell does that have to do with?
So you can buy a 6-pack with your 2x4s.
Is that all right? I'm sure there's some logic there. Oh, at the end of a long day,
That's right.
Every man and woman deserves
it's Miller time.
a beer. Okay. All right. I'm not sure how that works.
Well, basically in school this past week.
Yes, we are in the testing season.
Really schools across the state.
Oh, yeah. No, across the nation.
They don't have the same day across the nation.
No, they don't have the same day, but it is spring is the season of testing, the celebration of knowledge and
not only is it rutting
season
season for all the teens out there, parents be aware.
Well, that's why they're stressed.
And because they're not rutting.
They're hormonal. They have test stress, anxiety.
And boy, do they moan. Oh, my goodness.
They do grow.
Oh, wait, that's a different thing. Okay.
Oh, shut up. They've been very stressed about all of this. So the first one to come along has been the ACT.
The ACT test.
We test work keys all year, pretty much.
Same, not the same company.
No, Work Keys is part of the ACT.
Work Keys is ACT.
Yes, it's what they developed as a test for those who don't feel they need to take the ACT because they're going straight into the workforce and have no college plans. However, the state of Louisiana in 2013 decided that every junior in the state must take the ACT as part of their graduation requirement, regardless of their plans after high school.
That's right, because as we all know, everyone needs to know if they are ready for college. And that's what the ACT will tell you.
Yes, your college readiness. So your scores on all of your individual tests and your composite test will all come together to let you know you're going to be 70% more likely to score a B in college. Or if you're down in the 18 area, you're going to be a C student in college.
Well, we're going to get into this. Not just ACT, but also the companies involved in some of this.
Yeah.
Because after all, you might think, well, there's no money in education. Well, there is money in education. It's just not going to the local people. It's going to large corporations and stockholders in order to, I don't know, increase college readiness?
No, to further the divide between the haves and the have-nots.
And just to start off, one fact, and I'm not citing sources and all that stuff, but you look at it yourself. I looked it up. You can do the same thing. That's what Google's for.
If you don't believe me,
if you don't believe me, prove me wrong.
Anyway,
they
don't have that kind of time.
No, what I found out was the number one predictor of whether you will succeed in college, GPA.
Your GPA?
GPA is a better predictor of how you will do in college than the ACT or the SAT.
Well, then, but since
I know
COVID, teachers have been, I'm going to say it, inflating grades.
Well, they've been saying that for a long time.
And since COVID, I feel like it's increased dramatically. And because teachers in many cases don't want to have to deal with irate parents because their child has always gotten an A in every class.
Right.
And now you've given them a B.
And now parents are forearmed against anything for their children. So if you give the kid a B, you better be ready to justify it to a parent.
Yes. Oh, if I have a student with an F, I have to justify that to
Well, I get
everybody.
that. I understand justifying
what have
an
you
F,
done to try to make this kid do the work?
But I feel really weird when I have to justify that somebody's got a 92% instead of a 93%, therefore they have a B.
And why
when
won't you
10
bump
years
it?
ago they would have had an A.
Yeah.
But then we changed the grade level.
Well, the measure has shifted dramatically.
And
over
that's
time.
so it did when they
Okay,
changed
so GPA doesn't even do it anymore.
But it does as far as studies
I would
go.
say, are you coming to school?
I got a better.
So showing up.
Here you go.
Attendance.
College is a service.
Yes, you pay for that.
You pay for it. So I think the determiner of whether or not you're college ready is, can you pony up the money to pay for it?
Do you show up? Do you go to class? Do you do the requirements? And if you don't, you fail and you've lost that money
but I can also counter that with saying, yeah, but we can't be loaning money or giving Pell Grants to kids who may or may not fail. Well, we do that anyway.
Well, that's what TOPS has been about. I didn't have TOPS.
TOPS, yes.
My dad blew probably about $10,000 on 2 semesters at LSU.
And of course, everybody forgets what TOPS was originally envisioned by Governor Foster, who started the program. It was for low-income students.
Well, but then high-income families got upset.
Yes, because they didn't think it was fair that they were still having to pay for college when other people were getting a grant to basically go to college. So
weren't we just trying to level the playing field? That phrase, that term, we're going to level the playing field.
We're going to talk about that as well.
Are we?
Yes, we are. Because
I didn't know that.
The ACT test just rubs me the wrong way, and I think forcing everybody to take it is also.
But I have to teach an ACT
I know,
class.
I know.
My poor little children.
Oh,
Even
no.
the dog is upset.
Well, the dog couldn't pass the ACT test, so.
Otto might. Bella, she's a little spastic. She's high strung.
Bella could not.
No,
pass
Bella
the
would
ACT.
not. She'd lack of focus.
Yeah, I'd have to send her to like the Montessori school or something.
She'd be exited out of the room.
So let's just talk about ACT first.
All right.
Since that's the one that
what's
first,
the acronym?
Hang on. First, let's talk about the whole purpose of why we got into this. When we were testing the other day, we started talking about the ACT test and how during COVID, many schools waived the ACT requirement. And what they discovered was people going into college, it didn't seem to matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
The numbers were staying pretty much the same. So now colleges are starting to get away from that. Some colleges are coming up with other systems, other ways of determining it. The ACT test, many colleges now say, is just not worth it. And the SAT as well doesn't measure college readiness. First of all, the SAT is an aptitude test.
Yes. And that was a precursor to the ACT. The ACT was invented or developed as a response to the SAT.
Right. And we can go back in the history of the ACT. So the ACT test was founded in Iowa. And the reason that becomes important is the guy that created it, Everett Franklin Lindquist. In 1959. He is one of the developers of the Iowa Basic Skills Test.
Yes, that you and I and all the boomers we know
took.
That was the test. That was our testing trauma that we had in school. And that was about it.
Right. And
the Kennedy developed the fitness test. We had to take that. That was trauma for me because I was fat.
Well, there you go.
I was chunky.
In 1929, Lindquist constructed tests for the Iowa Basic Skills called the Iowa Academic at a place called the Iowa Academic Meet, and it was a contest to identify Iowa's top high school scholars. That's all it was originally. Then they developed the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, better known as the ITBS, not to be confused with irritable bowel syndrome, which is IBS.
Us and our acronyms, we love that.
In 1942, he introduced that test for students in grades 9 through 12, and then Lindquist also used his test to develop the Armed Forces Tests of General Education Development, which became known as the GED test.
Oh,
so that was the precursor to the ASVAB test.
Don't say ASVAB.
ASVAB. Well, since it's Armed Services ASVAB.
Yes. So the American college tests came out of all of that. Well, how did he spread it to
in
rest
1958.
of the country? And Canada. Canada does the ACT.
At a conference sponsored by Educational Testing Services, ETS, he presented a paper arguing that entrance examinations should evaluate students' readiness to perform college-level work and should therefore be tests of achievement, not tests of intelligence or aptitude, a clear challenge to the test known as the Scholastic Aptitude Test, the SAT. So they delivered the first ever ACT test to 75,000 students in 1959. So it's been around a while.
It's done a while, and it has grown exponentially.
It certainly has. And originally, the test was your standard test. It was English, math, social studies, and science.
Wonder why they dropped the social studies.
Because they don't want people to truly know about social studies.
Well,
that's my theory, but you know.
Because why couldn't you read some passages and answer some social studies questions?
Well, as we know, is it in the reading?
Well,
passages?
the reading
There's
will
a
have
social studies
There will
test?
be a humanities. There will be. Yeah, there are 4. Yes,
but as far as
4 genres,
factual knowledge in social studies, that's no,
done. You don't need that. But now the test is not only achievement for the young people; it's accountability for the teachers. For me, that's my grade.
Now, up until 1996, it was the American College Testing was ACT.
Yes.
Today, it's just ACT Incorporated.
American College Test, yes.
ACT Inc.
To let you know what's really important. How much I mean, because in 2013, when the state of Louisiana said, all right, we are going to require this for all students, whether they plan to go to college or not, it's part of their graduation requirements, and we are going to pay for a test for all students.
Yeah.
Right. One test. And that's what we just did, the state test. And then how much does that cost us as a state?
Well, each test is $66, but finding out how much the state spends on giving the
that's
test,
all lumped into the educational budget.
Correct.
So that is probably a large chunk of the educational budget.
I would assume.
The year they did that, my first thought was, I need to go online and find out now how many people just invested in the
By the way,
company.
Lindquist made his money not off of the ACT test or the Iowa Basic Skills test. He created the very first practical optical mark recognition system.
OMS?
Number 2 pencil.
What?
Number 2 pencil to make your marks. He invented the machine
that checks
that. He is the sole inventor, and I looked it up. He is the only one on the patent for the Scantron style test.
Yeah.
Filed in 1960 or filed in 55, granted in 62, and his machine is the very first one that used computers.
Yeah,
to
just
grade.
like you would those old fashioned the early computer systems where you had a punch card that you had to go. So it's a similar technology. Interesting.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
So he made a ton of money.
And now we have completely moved away from that. Although that did make teachers' lives much easier, I'm sure.
Well, but they don't want us to use those anymore.
Oh no, we don't. No, they don't like paper at all now.
No, they don't want any paper.
we are torn. I have a small percentage who do like the online format, and then the majority, myself included, I would prefer paper because then I can, especially when you get to the reading test, I need to be able to mark on it. I need to be able to mark on my passage.
Right.
And it's harder to do and it's more time intensive on the computer.
And reading on a computer is
Reading
harder.
on the computer, my eyes hurt. I have a headache by the end of the day. So yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's kind of where we were with this, talking about the ACT test. And then I started wondering about the company itself. Like, obviously they must have lobbyists because they're able to constantly
to make an entire state mandate and pay for that test.
Right. In 2012, the ACT passed the SAT in total test takers. Across the country, 1,666,017 students took the ACT test.
Well, they take it over and over, though. That's the
number of people who have taken the test.
Okay.
There are actually more tests given, it says.
Yeah.
Because many students, their parents have the money to let their kids take it over and over and over, and also put them through preparatory practice.
Oh, the boot camps. Good Lord.
And that's actually big business.
That is a huge money making. And I won't say that wasn't very helpful for my students, because it really was. But the funding that goes into that, and think about what you're doing. You're paying to make sure that somebody teaches your kid the tips and tricks. Not that they're better achievers now, just that they know how to take the test. It is a standardized test.
Right.
So you don't have to be smart. You just have to know what to look for.
So in Louisiana, when they decided to force the ACT test down everyone's throat.
Such harsh language.
And by the way, they use the scores on that test to grade faculty.
Well, I said that earlier, but you just skimmed right over this is my life, sir.
By grading faculty, it also affects a school's performance score as well.
Your school has to perform and do better each time.
And so schools began investing and spending money, school districts, on preparation for the ACT test.
Yes. Well, I teach an entire class.
And as you said, they call them boot camps. Well, that took off in Louisiana, and the primary company that pushed the boot camps was a company called Mastery Prep.
Well, that was Mr. Craig. Mr. Craig's from Baton Rouge.
Mr. Craig, and he developed it in Baton Rouge. And gee, what a great company! Now, Mr. Craig.
Now, it was a great, and I'm gonna say that it was very effective training for teaching the little tricks.
Right.
They're there for a good 6-7 hours pushing students in each of the 4 test areas of what to look for, what are distractors, what don't you do.
Craig Gehring created Mastery Prep in the hopes of closing the achievement gap that prevents poor and impoverished students from getting the help they need to improve their ACT scores. The whole point of Mastery Prep originally was to focus on low-income and impoverished students.
Well, if the school's taking care of that cost, then that is what that is happening for all students, whatever the socioeconomic background of your family. Low-income schools also get vouchers from the state, so the test is still being paid for by the state.
Correct.
So your tax dollars are paying for that.
And luckily for everyone, of course, Mastery Prep's still doing the good work there in Baton Rouge. Oh, wait. Oh, gosh.
What?
They sold the company.
No.
Yes.
I just talked to the lady that worked for them.
Yeah. Well, no,
that worked for Mr. Craig.
It's still called Mastery Prep.
Okay, because
it was sold.
That's my core teaching curriculum for ACT.
It was sold to a company called, you're going to like this, Achieve Partners.
Oh, okay.
So Achieve Partners.
Achieve Partners, did that increase their bankroll?
Well, Achieve Partners has a purpose. Investing in the future of learning and earning.
Okay. Well, college and career readiness, right? If you don't go to college, you need to get a career.
While millions of Americans have benefited from technological change and the rise of the digital economy, millions have been left behind. We believe legacy education systems have not adapted to the challenges of the 21st century and beyond, and innovative new approaches are required to improve learning and bridge the gap from education to employment.
Well, that's what the Work Keys test was developed for. When ACT realized that not everybody was going to go to college and that not every state was going to jump on board and pay for an ACT test for every single student, including the ones who weren't going to college, business leaders got together and said, hey, kids are coming to us as employees and they don't have the skills they need to enter the workforce. We can teach them what the job is, but we can't teach them how to read a document, a workplace document.
Right.
We can't teach them to read a
Soft
design
skills.
graft and the soft skills and all the things that go into applied math.
Well,
so they make money there too.
They did post something interesting,
Okay.
though. 96% of university provosts believe that 96% believe they are preparing graduates for the world of work. Hiring managers across the country believe 14%, only 14% believe colleges are preparing graduates for employment.
Okay, well then if
that's
you don't,
a huge disconnect.
Then what about the other 86%? Are they going straight into the workforce and do they think?
Well, 87% don't believe.
Yes, but do they believe that not for college, but for just go to work? Not everybody's going to go get a certification or go to college.
Well, I think that this is about college. We're talking about testing for college.
Well, I was talking about testing for the workforce.
But that's what they're saying is they're preparing students to go to college in order to get a job, right?
Well, but that's what the Work Keys is supposed to do.
But colleges aren't preparing graduates according to the hiring managers, but the colleges say, yes, we are. So there is a massive disconnect between those two. So It's not even about high school at that point. You're talking about college. So if colleges think they're doing something and hiring managers say, no, you're not.
Well, but colleges blame high school.
Exactly.
They blame the lower education system.
Right, because
for
who are you
not
going to blame? You can't blame yourself.
Well,
that would be crazy.
That would be like me saying my juniors can't read because I didn't teach them to read.
By the way, the filings for Mastery Prep and the purchase by the Achieve Partners, the investing firm, undisclosed.
Oh, they wouldn't even say how much they paid.
I can't find it.
Well, I would say it's a successful program. How much does the ACT Corporation, Pearson or whoever, how much do they generate a year? What is their income? They used to be a not-for-profit, right?
No, they still are. ACT is a 501c3 nonprofit organization.
That made how much?
And let's see, their total revenue last year was $240 million.
Okay.
But
they didn't keep that.
They lost they spent $301 million. So they're saying that they had a net income of less, or they were $60 million
so they're in the red.
hole.
Yeah, they're in the red. They're not making money on that that section of their business.
Program services account for 79% of their total revenue. The thing that kind of gets you when you start reading this is compensation, $1 million at the top, and
for the CEO,
right, and $500,000 for all the various officers,
but they don't make a profit,
right? Yeah. I kind of went down. If you get to like, this guy's just director, doesn't say what he directs. He's just director. He makes $48,000 a year, but he's way down at the list.
Okay, well, he's around teacher salary then.
And there's a big drop off in revenue during COVID.
Sure. And that's where
they showed a profit until COVID.
They began to have issues because then all of a sudden 1,800 colleges across the country said, you know what? We don't actually need an ACT score to judge admissions now. We're going to do that in a different manner. We're going to do it holistically.
Holistically, yes.
Holistic.
Everybody
admissions.
loves that term.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's so
term.
Inclusive. It just makes my heart feel good.
Oh, it's a warm fuzzy.
Do you want to know since 2013 how the ACT has helped helped educate our students? The increase in educational achievement for our Louisiana students.
Sure.
Well, our graduation rate went
according to who?
According to the Louisiana Department of Education. Okay. Louisiana believes. I'm at the ACT.org
Wait, it's
site.
A Louisiana government site?
It is an ACT.org site with a document from the Louisiana Department of Education showing how.
Well, I trust Louisiana government officials. Go ahead.
Yes. So we're basically on the ACT site to say, look at the success Louisiana has achieved, because typically in education, Louisiana is way down at the bottom.
Oh, of course.
Just trying to step on Mississippi all the time.
Hey, man, we raced ahead of Mississippi years ago to become 49th in the country. So
the plan in 2013 that our legislatures came up with has made 7,000 more students earn a score of 18,000 or higher. It doesn't give me what it was prior to 2013, but 7,000 more students now earn a score of 18 or higher. That is a 0.5 increase in the average ACT composite since 2013. Our student graduation rate in the state has gone from 71% to 77%.
That's during COVID?
That has been
when everybody graduated.
That has been since 2013. Yes, probably so. I'm sure that's lumped.
Well, not just that. We had in certain areas we had waivers for hurricanes.
Yes, all lawyers in the state passed the bar. We just gave them their.
So there are lawyers out there who actually didn't
actually take the bar.
They
exam. They skirted by. College enrollment has. The college enrollment rate has gone from 48% in our state to 58% since 2013. And I guess that is all attributed to that. Louisiana now has the third highest average composite score and the largest growth of the southern of the 11 southern states that test all students.
So we're at the top of the bottom 11 states.
The 11 states. Wait, I don't know that it's 11 states that test all students.
Well, that's South. That's the South.
Yes. So there may not even be 11 people to compete with that we're number one of 11. I'm just glad to be on the positive side of the ranking here. That's what I can say.
We are number one in the bottom 11.
And now, so my teaching grade, whether I'm a proficient or inefficient teacher, is directly correlated to my students' increase in their ACT score.
Now, I will say that the boot camp thing does help. They do go up.
That helped me.
Students seem to think you're a good teacher because their scores have gone up.
But maybe it was the boot camp. Maybe it wasn't me. I got questions.
I don't know. I think you're a big part of it.
I think it was a part of it. But I can't take credit. You know why? Because there were 10 years worth of teachers before me.
Right,
but no, not 10 because they had.
But as we know, no teacher works harder than me.
Oh,
and I mean me in a generic sense, not me Geelong me.
Here.
I just mean teachers in general always say,
yes,
well,
yes.
those kids came into my class unprepared.
I'm not a martyr. Okay, here, I'm going to read you John White's when he was superintendent in the state of Louisiana.
Wait, you mean the superintendent that didn't know anything about education?
Yeah,
John White?
Oh, and that wasn't from Louisiana.
Yes.
Okay.
And had never taught a class?
Yes.
Go ahead.
4 straight years of gains on the ACT proves beyond a doubt that when you raise expectations for all students, they can achieve great things. It also proves that we can go farther.
That's nonsense. That doesn't prove anything.
Well, we've got the word prove is in his statement twice, so I think he's proven what he...
So think about the logic of saying, if I raise expectations on a given thing, then people will do better.
Yes.
That's nonsense.
No, they've told me that since that they did that whole little study with teachers. I had to do that in psychology
But it's
class.
nonsense. Most
if you
teachers
expect more, they will rise to your expectations.
I expect more for somebody who runs the 100-yard dash. Gosh, he's running it in 10 seconds, but I expect 8.
Okay, so
eventually he'll get to 8.
Yes, because I'm going to pressure him.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you. I
what's happened is we have now got all these programs to prepare kids for the ACT that they didn't have before because those programs cost big money. But now the state is paying for them, which means for people in Louisiana, of course, it's perfectly free.
COVID was such a boon for education. It wasn't a great thing for our students because of all the learning loss and all the crap that went along with that.
Oh, by the way,
loss.
That's another thing. They're like, many kids fell behind as much as 3 grade levels. Well, in 3 months? I don't think so.
Well, no, we technically lost
We went out in March.
Yes, and then so the rest of that school year, that was 1 3-month period.
And then we came back in the fall.
The following year was not. That's my point that I'm making is that all of those those developers of programs for online digital that they saw coming, right? Mm-hmm. Those programs, those companies were going like, I think this is the future. People are going to be homeschooling. And then COVID hit and they must have just lost their shit. Oh my God, we've got to get this out there because now everybody's got to do it online.
Right.
So they made a fortune because as our parish and many other parishes in other states and counties must have realized, they bought something really quickly because they didn't know what else to do, and their leaders had to make a decision. This looks like a great program. We're going to buy this, and our kids are going to do
they
this.
bought everything.
They bought everything to try because they didn't know.
I had passwords. I had to write all the passwords down.
It was so many programs.
There were so many programs.
So,
by the way, many of them worthless.
Exactly. And they made their money, and then maybe they got out, maybe they sold out, and they went on, but your kids lost. Our kids did lose.
But they didn't lose the kind of time that they're all saying.
No. Actually, they lost more behavioral and social and emotional learning than actual academic learning.
I will say the number one indicator of a child doing well in school right off the bat. What are you doing?
What do you mean? What am I doing?
You keep looking behind you. There's nobody behind you.
I'm not looking behind me. I'm looking at the clock.
Don't look at my clock. That's my clock. That's my time.
It's our time, sir.
Number one, parents.
Oh, wait. You're not allowed to say that.
Reading to your children and making your children learn to read.
And enjoying education.
Because we still have kids coming into high school with reading levels of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Clearly, all the technology in the world isn't going to help much if a kid can't at least do the basics when they walk in the door. And that has been my complaint since the beginning of all of this digital learning.
But I think that's all about to change because of technology. You said all the technology in the world. I don't agree with that.
Well, as soon as we have a plug into the brain where we can just dump knowledge into their heads.
Okay, we used to joke about that, but I'm not joking about it anymore
I'm not
because
either.
It is going to happen.
Absolutely.
But then that's going to create a caste system. That is going to create more of a divide. Yeah, exactly. It's going to make it worse because these people aren't going to be, their socioeconomic level is so low that we're going to make them the ditch diggers. We're going to make this is what's going to happen.
The number one indicator of success on ACT and SAT is household income. The richer a family is,
I didn't
the
see
better
that
their
on
students.
the ACT site. They never.
No, they don't mention that, do they?
No, they don't mention that.
It turns out that people with money spend a ton of money getting their kids ready for their SATs or ACTs. People without money, their kids take the ACT test in school.
You have to recognize how much money is involved in all of this to get a kid into college when you realize how many people just recently were arrested and have spent some time in jail or at least in court because they paid people to go take their kids' tests.
But I'm not talking about people taking a test for a student.
No, but that just shows you the level of stress and how much is actually riding on that.
Right. Families whose household income exceeds $150,000 a year, their children take, on average, the ACT test up to 7 times from 10th to 12th grade. So in 3 years, twice a year. That's not the school. That's privately paid for.
Oh, outside. Yeah, the Saturday test, the one I used to give, because I've worked for the ACT Corp. I've taken in as my role as an educator. I've also taken the teacher certification program, which cost I don't know how much for the parish.
Average income spent on ACT and SAT preparation courses, on average, $1,500 if your income is above the $150,000 level.
And it shouldn't cost you anything.
But so the ACT and the SAT are measuring family wealth almost more than anything else.
Well, if the college wants to know if you're going to be prepared to come into college, you have your high school transcript, and then they should administer a test, and that's it. It's their test. It's the test for their college.
Right.
It shouldn't be a financial strain for anybody, whether you're rich or poor.
Right. And the thing is,
you're paying to go to the college.
Look at what colleges do. If you have, let's say on the ACT, you do well, except on math. And I'm speaking from experience.
Well, now they've changed the scoring system. Now you don't have to take the whole test again. You can go in and just take the math.
That's not the point. The point is you still have a bunch of kids who end up having to take remedial courses, which is more money for the college, and you don't get anything for it.
Okay, so colleges now realize, no, you don't get anything except the background knowledge that you need to take the next class.
Right.
So you don't fail that.
But you could have just as easily been prepared by a preparer to take algebra.
Yeah.
And
not the ACT.
And by the way, how many people actually need that knowledge for their future career?
Okay, so I know we have a wide range of ages that listen to us, and for some of you, you already know this. If you don't use algebra every day,
you lose it.
You don't remember any of that.
Yes.
There's no reason to know that.
Speaking from experience.
But the applied math on work keys, that's math that I use every day.
And that is math that most of the kids could do pretty easily. The work keys test is actually a better test, I think, after seeing both in action.
Yes,
work keys measures actual employability.
Okay, but again, then why is it something that has to cost money? If it's a predictor of how you're going to do in a business, then let the business administer the test.
Nonprofits need to make profits.
Okay. I don't know where we're actually going with all of this, except that things are about to shift because colleges now across the country are starting to dump the test. ACT has been smart, and they've gotten the work keys ingrained in high schools across the country. And
in Louisiana, we have the advantage of the Jump Start program that somebody at least had enough sense to start.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't really... They started the program before they had the system in place to take care of it.
Well, that happens all the time.
Oh, it does.
I do that too.
But vocational schools used to be something that existed more.
Yeah.
Then they went away because everybody had to go to college.
Now we're shifting.
And now we're going back to it again.
The pendulum is swinging the other way because once again, as every episode comes to, balance.
Well,
we need a balance.
And I'll put it more simply than that. The world needs welders, plumbers, electricians, instrumentation people. And you don't need to go to a 4-year university to get that.
No. My college education plus the $10,000 of my dad's that I spent failing at LSU because I was way too young to go to LSU, and a $10,000, 2-semester party wasn't worth that. But that is the largest chunk of money.
But it was a good party.
It was, you know what? I was depressed the whole time. And if I hadn't come home and met you.
Thank goodness for alcohol, huh?
Yeah, that's it. So
self-medication.
I recognize that I'm a teacher and I have a degree and all of those things, but I feel like most of that was a waste of money.
Do you know how most people dodge the SAT and the ACT test in many states?
They just go to work?
In many states, community colleges don't require an ACT.
So they start there.
Once they get their associate's degree,
2 years,
they are not required to take the ACT test to go to a 4-year university.
Bullshit. Well, you know what, though?
They're college ready.
Yeah.
They've been in a 2-year institution.
There's their evidence that they can do it. Well, Suella was shit when I got out of high school.
Me too.
It was the joke was it was Ryan Street High, or not Ryan Street High. That was Maggie's. Right. I'm sorry. It was a joke.
Look, I know somebody who took the CNA course and they were going on break and getting high.
Yeah, there were people smoking weed in the back.
Yeah.
Now you can just take a gummy. You don't have to smoke the.
Oh, thanks for the advice, Dr. Deb. Kids, don't smoke while you're in school. Take a gummy instead.
Well, the state's fixing to do that too.
True.
So everything that we were taught as boomers, and I loosely use that term for us, but it's all going away. We're no longer worried about psychedelics. In fact, now we're looking at that as a fix-all for addicts. If you're addicted to alcohol, if you're addicted to, if you're emotionally unstable, we're going to use psychedelics. Mushrooms are going to save the world.
I did a multiplication table for a student the other day. I drew it out real quick.
Okay.
1 to 12, both directions. Y'all know. You old people know.
This is how I did it.
This is how I learned multiplication tables. And he'd never seen it before.
Yeah, I don't know how they teach math now. It's weird.
It is weird.
It is. I don't know if it would have been easier or if I would struggle. I struggled then, so.
I think that multiplication tables worked because you had those speed tests where you had.
Oh, yeah, you had to memorize that.
And so you just got it to where it was. Root learning. So now when somebody says, hey, what's 8 times 8? You don't even think about it. You just blurt out the answer. And so, which everybody knows is 36.
Yeah.
And.
What are you doing? Stop it.
So besides the ACT test, of course, I don't want to pick on just ACT.
Well, I think our whole point here is programs, the peripherals of education, because there is no money in education. We can't give teachers a raise because there is no money in education. We're spending it on the kids.
And technology.
We're spending, and technology. Because without that, I have to tell you.
Well, the money that they say we spend on kids, that's the technology. That's why it keeps going up.
Yeah.
Because we're buying these programs, these $1 million programs, and then we take them away. Look, I've been using in special education, I've been in Louisiana since I started doing special education. I've been using what's called the Scantron test to measure reading level and math level.
When they first enter.
Grade level.
Yeah, your grade or your.
And it was very effective. It was an excellent test. I took it myself. By the way, I'm pretty smart. And
show off.
I know it was easy, but the point is that it very effectively demonstrated their grade level in both math and reading.
Okay.
This year, we're not going to pay for that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, we need to be able to measure in special education. We need to know where they're at each year.
How do you measure growth?
We're required to come up with a goal, and then we have to then justify that goal and prove that they've reached that goal. Well, how do you do that if you have no test to actually measure their level?
Because that's also just like the ACT for me, that's your grade. Because
no, it's not my grade.
Oh, it doesn't tell whether or not you're an effective teacher or
This isn't about my teaching. This is about where the student is at so that I can build a goal. But now I can't.
You have to measure.
So if a student is reading at a 3rd grade level, then next year they should be reading at, let's say, a 4th grade level.
Sure, at least.
But I have no way of knowing that now because we're not allowed to do it. And it was too expensive, they said. But then they went and invested in like 5 other programs.
Well, and then some go away. A lot of the programs, I mean, you get new ones each year. And part of the complaint, I think, across the board for educators is I have too many programs.
And I think that's what made Scantron so good. They've been using Scantron for years to measure special education students, and then they dumped it. Mm-hmm. So it worked. But obviously, lobbyists.
But we have technology.
But some lobbyists, it was technology. It was taken on a computer. Some lobbyists probably sold them some other program.
Yes.
And no, they were taking the Scantron test on the computer 7 years ago.
Well, it's not exactly the same as a Scantron. Scantron is filling in the bubbles and putting that.
No, Scantron
strip.
is the company.
Oh, you're talking
and
about.
they developed their own Lexile
All right, well, then we
test.
were not communicating because
I'm sorry.
I did not understand your.
Right.
Scantron to me means
was the
something
company.
else. Okay. Well, that's different.
And somehow I think they're involved with ACT as well, by the way.
Everybody's all muckied up in everything because they're all making a profit.
Well, not the SAT. That's a completely different company. They're owned.
They don't make any money. They've been around since before the ACT.
Oh, no. They make money. Man, do they make money.
The first ACT was given in 1959. Everett there, he started his stuff in 1950. So approximately 9 years for it to become, a more of a national test. But the SAT was already in place. We haven't even talked about the GRE.
Well, we don't need to talk about that.
I don't know.
But I want to talk about Pearson.
The company?
The company that not only provided the digital format for the ACT test, even though they're not ACT.
Yeah. They developed
the software to take the ACT test online.
Okay. And work keys.
Yes.
Okay.
And the ACT or the SAT test is owned by Pearson. Pearson is the company.
Okay.
Pearson was a company that was founded in 1844 as a construction company. It seems weird, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. They constructed a test.
Well, they constructed lots of stuff. Tunnels in New York City, tunnels in Mexico. They built factories all over England. This is an English company, by the way.
Yes. Okay.
They're on the FTSE 100 index. They've been everywhere. They are on the New York Stock Exchange. They are incredibly wealthy.
Who is they? They're not.
All the stockholders of Pearson are doing pretty well.
So what you're saying is the SAT does not claim the moniker of a not-for-profit.
No.
A non-profit. They want their profit, and they pledge that loudly.
And you can tell that they're very interested in education, Pearson, because the CEO of Pearson that they picked back in 2020, Andy Bird, former Disney executive. And who knows more about education than Disney?
Well, sure. They've been educating the youth of America for decades.
The Magic Kingdom.
Yes.
He's going to come in and fix
this
stuff.
This is how we link it back to the psychedelics. Because I'm sorry, but
the acid heads.
Some of those little rides in Disney when I was a kid were very trippy, man.
Well, speaking of profits, before I move on with Pearson,
yes.
No, we have a new sponsor.
Oh, do we?
We do.
Do tell.
Oh, yeah.
Are you hiding things from me?
No. It's something that everybody needs. Everybody will want it.
Everybody needs it in their life?
Oh, I guarantee
you. Do tell.
If you want a long cigarette, smoke the best of long cigarettes. Smoke Fatima. Fatima is the long cigarette, which contains the finest Turkish and domestic tobaccos superbly blended to make Fatima extra mild. And that's why Fatima has a much different, much better flavor and aroma than any other long cigarette. That's why Fatima is doubling and redoubling its smokers. So, if you want a long cigarette, smoke the best of all long cigarettes. Smoke Fatima.
That's right, long cigarettes.
Long cigarettes. I didn't realize. So, is that for your family?
The long in the boot does not promote smoking.
Again.
That was a commercial from the 1948.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, then we've really gone back to the 40s and 50s for today's episode.
I like the idea of the long cigarette.
Of course, because it lasts longer.
I guess. I never even heard of Fatima cigarettes.
I have not either. That is absolutely before my time.
When I heard that, I was like, my God, how many times can you say long cigarette in an ad? Obviously, I need to play that. And
they want me, Mr. Long, to
would you
play
like
that.
A long cigarette in the boot?
No, there's still a lot of smoking in the boot.
Hey.
But again, things are changing.
Things are going to change.
I mean, we were at one time promoting smoking as a positive, healthy thing. Cool and menthol cigarettes were very healthy.
That's true.
Doctors said they soothed your throat.
Oh, yeah, the T-zone.
Yes, the T-zone at the back of your throat.
If doctors say cigarettes are cool, then
trust
clearly.
The science.
That's right. Trust the science.
Until we don't trust the science.
Especially a guy who talks like this.
And then we're going to get new science, and then we're going to trust that science. So the point is, we really don't know. And then when we know better, we change.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, Pearson, the SAT people, people who own SAT now, revenue $4 billion a year.
$4 billion. We could save the Ukraine if they tried. Or we could possibly help the homeless, or I don't know. I don't know what we could do.
No, they've been losing a little bit of money too since COVID.
Because things are changing.
Things are changing. Things are changing. But anyway, so Pearson though, they are an investment company now as well. They invested so much money in education later. It's kind of weird. When they first started, they were construction, and then somewhere along the way, they suddenly switched to publishing. Okay. So in the 1920s, for whatever reason, they switched to publishing.
Well, they probably saw an area that needed to, you mean publishing like school curriculum documents, things like that, books for education, and because there's a lot of money in books for education, online and physical.
Yeah, well, they own, for instance, Prentice Hall.
That's huge. Yeah,
they own all kinds of companies that do publishing for colleges, like the Wharton Business School. All the books used at the Wharton Business School are produced by Pearson.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a fortune.
Like I said, they own Prentice Hall. The other company that owns that owns Mastery Prep, that company used to be involved with McGraw-Hill. So all these things are all wrapped up in each other.
Yeah.
And what they're all trying to do now is trying to shift from paper to digital. That's the big push right now, is to get rid of
the paper completely.
Because we'll always have high tech. That'll never go away. We'll never, ever lose power. We'll never have any kind of
as our power dims. As our power just dims.
It only dimmed a little.
So I'm looking at the states that everybody takes the ACT 100%. And then you've got states like Maine. 5% of Maine students take the ACT.
Well, that's because that's the East Coast, and SAT is more often.
Is king. 11% in Delaware, 12% in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Rhode Island, 11%. So it's a wide range. It varies really wildly across the country.
Well, originally the SAT was created specifically by East Coast colleges.
For Harvard and getting into the ritzy schools that didn't want to take just anybody.
The ritzy schools.
Well, so nationally, the 49% of high school students take the ACT. Currently, this is a 2022.
Well, we know ACT
document.
has gone past.
It's gone, yes. And the composite nationally for the 49% that take it is 20.
Okay. So
20, yeah.
Dropping. And it'll continue to drop. I think that colleges are going to gradually get rid of. I think colleges.
I don't think they're going to continue.
You're a college.
Yes.
Why haven't you developed your own
test? This is the point I made at the beginning of the episode. You don't listen to me.
Yes, I do. What I'm saying is, okay, we have a McNeese, for instance. They have a College of Nursing. Well, there should be a specific entrance exam for nursing.
Yes.
Because if you're going into nursing, you should
have certain skills. There should be certain things. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure they have their own tests that have been developed. And
of course, I guess the final thing we have to talk about, besides testing and all the money involved, though, is the tests themselves. What are they doing what they claim to do?
No, because just because you know that a period and a semicolon are effectively the same thing on the English test, so you know how to rule out answers and choose the answer that is correct because a period or a semicolon are equal. I mean, how is that keeping you in college? Are you writing papers that you need semicolon usage all the time?
And clearly,
does that help?
And I know people get upset about the bias, the racial bias on these standardized tests. But these tests were developed as standardized tests for the standardized American in the 50s.
In Iowa.
I'm going to just take a wild guess and say there probably weren't too many minority students in Iowa in the 1950s.
This is the thing that I kind of correct from the boot camp people. One of the tips across the nation for ACT is sounds right. Sounds right is right. And I said, okay, look,
no,
that may work for some of you. It may work for many of you for some things. But do you listen to people who are academically speaking, are speaking academically constantly? Do you know what? Because a lot of times I'll give them sentences and they'll pick the wrong, pronoun or something. And no, that's not right. Yeah, it is right. This is correct. You hear it wrong. You don't speak that way, and you don't listen to people who do speak that way.
Right.
So that one is a little bit of an iffy one. And I would say kids from the South and kids from a lower socioeconomic level, they can't use sounds right is right all the time.
No, it's like the old I before E, except after C rule, and then you find out that there's like bunches of exceptions.
Yeah, well, I have a student who continually gets upset because people misspell her name, and I said, it's the I before E rule. Yours violates that, and old people.
It's like Frankenstein.
Yes, in words sounding like neighbor and way.
And so now we've got people who are pushing to get rid of the ACT and the SAT, but then now we've got the pushback that says, hey, you're just dumbing down students by not asking them to take this test.
It's not dumbing down anything. Get rid of the damn tests. You don't need them. Let them go to college, admit them, and if they don't succeed,
I have the solution.
Pay your bill and move on.
I have the solution. Higher expectations. I say if you don't get a 30 on the ACT, you don't get to go to college.
You can't go to college.
There.
You'll
solved.
Work for that, buddy.
Solved. I just solved it.
There you go. You solved it for everybody.
Man, I love solving problems.
Okay. I don't think any episode we ever do solves anything. It just hashes it out.
I think we've solved so much today.
Okay. As if our listeners didn't recognize that education, just like everything else in the country, can be ripe with graft and corruption.
Let me just say what I say to students all the time. School's dumb.
Don't say that to students. You know what?
Not often.
Our time together in the classroom, I think, is a vital bit of time. Every teacher and everybody that comes in and deals with young people in an ethical manner.
Right. In an ethical manner. Not touching them inappropriately.
We won't go there because the moral and the ethical thing, that was almost our topic today.
Hey, but the lunch lady at that school this week in the news, she picked up the slack for teachers who aren't touching their students, didn't she?
Boy, didn't she? Yeah. And the coach, the 300.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna stop there because then we just homeschooling and everybody's gonna keep their kids
I like
home.
what at Emory University they said the SAT should be abolished, not moved online. Why? Because many students still don't have access to actual computers. They have a phone,
but they can't get.
But they don't sit in front of a computer. Except at school.
Well, what is their school doing with the education money? Why don't they give them a computer? I mean, come on.
Well, that's one of the investment companies that owns one of these testing companies. Is they're also in bed with Google to provide Chromebooks.
Oh, dear God.
And you remember when Apple got involved in education and how everybody got an
iPad.
Oh,
and you saw what our parish just did. They just sold all the used iPads because we weren't using them.
Proof that educators are not necessarily the smartest. Well, no, these were administrators, not even educators. So these administrators in an environment where everything was based on Windows.
Yes.
Windows.
Yes.
Microsoft.
Some lobbyist came in.
Hey, it'd be great if every kid had an iPad. Well, what can you do with that iPad? Can I do anything in Windows? No.
No, you can't. You can't. It doesn't go
It was useless. It was more than useless.
Well, I struggled through some times with that and when it doesn't work well for me and it's not easy to access and easy to learn, I stop using it. I use what I think is going to be effective, and that's about it.
I can still recall being asked, hey, Glenn, what do you think about those iPads? And I said,
I don't.
I think they're pieces of shit.
Yeah, I really don't. Okay, well, our kids are going to be...
I didn't say it that way.
I know you didn't because you're educated and you know how to self-censor.
That's right.
Sometimes.
So I probably said a big steaming pile of feces.
Okay, so...
That's Latin,
we are going to end this because the testing season is not over. We still have end of course testing.
Oh yeah, EOC.
We still have AP testing for those
Work
kids.
keys testing again.
Work keys testing again because you can take that test over and over as many times as you want.
What else? There's got to be
the
other
computer.
tests.
It's
COVID tests.
those are in my bathroom.
Pregnancy tests.
I don't do that anymore. Sometimes tests go away. You see, you don't need them anymore. They're ineffective.
What? We should require all high school girls to take a pregnancy test.
The hell you say?
And I want to hold them to a higher standard by saying if we can keep the level at 0.
What, procreation?
Yes, in high school.
Oh.
In high school.
All right.
We're shooting
Lord.
for a 0.
Dear Lord. I can't even. Listening community, I think we got off track here a little bit, but we're going to wrap this up. Do you know that tomorrow is our wedding anniversary, but really, we have been together 40 years.
Ugh.
Yeah.
40 years.
40 years. I have known you and been along longer than my dad and I had a relationship.
Congratulations.
Because he died at such an early age.
It must be mighty great being you, having the name Long.
Well, it just leads to so many life questions. Looking for those regrets, wondering what could have been. What if What if I had done well on my ACT? Would my life have been different?
You went to LSU.
So I must have done okay on that high school one. I don't even remember what my score was. The kids always ask, and I can't actually tell them.
I remember mine.
And then we took it again.
Because I was shocked by that math score.
Yeah, well, the math score, I think I had an 8 on that. That was the second time I took it, though, and
See,
I was
I didn't
an
take it in school because I wasn't going to college.
It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't being pushed when I was in high school, even though I went to a private, ritzy.
I remember when everybody went to take the test, and I just stayed home.
So for me,
now I took the ASVAB test for the armed services, which, by the way, the ASVAB test is still a great test.
Yeah, I do think if you want to know your strengths, what skill areas,
your vocational aptitude.
It's a good a good predictor of that.
That's why they still use it,
and it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah,
I don't think. I mean, I guess the government. Oh, shit. Everything costs something.
Well, I think you can take it. I think you can schedule an ASVAB test.
Yeah,
I don't know that it costs money.
But then you have to sort through the recruiters, trying to get you. That's what the kids said. Ms. Long, when we made that ACT account online, I'm starting to get stuff from colleges and saying, yeah, I know.
Well, everybody seems to forget that one of the things you have to do when you take any of these tests is you have to fill out a survey that basically just gives them all your information.
All your data.
And by the way,
your likes, your dislikes.
ACT and Pearson, SAT, they sell your information.
Okay.
Pearson will sell all your information.
Wait, these people are our students, and the privacy issues surrounding our students is stringent.
I can't even use a student's full name
on an email to another teacher.
But Pearson has way more information than that. Okay. So does ACT.
Okay.
And Pearson says $50 per student is the cost for information about a student.
So okay.
$50.
All right. Young listeners who have younger children or middle school children and high school
or just
kids,
children in general.
And this is the future you're facing.
Sorry.
Yeah. Fight back.
It wasn't me. Fight the power.
Fight the good fight or succumb and just say it's all going to happen anyway. Try to take your joy with you, though, because, man, you're going to need it.
Is it still portable?
It is. You got to take it everywhere.
You take it everywhere.
Everywhere, because you need that. You got to fall back. It's in my pocket. It's my joy.
It's my joy.
I'm holding on to it tight.
Is that your joy? Is that joy in your pocket? Or are you just happy to see me?
I think he needs a towel.
It's both.
Okay. Wow.
Y'all have a good weekend coming up. Weather's been pretty nice lately.
I think we're gonna get a little cold snap.
I need to come up with a phrase like,
You keep saying that, but then you just say something inappropriate and that, or maybe I say it and you add to it. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Love you, honey.
Love ya, honey.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard about it, read about it. But have you ever seen a psychedelic circus? Those innocent fun games of the hallucination generation? Here you will meet the swingers, the hipsters, the beatniks, and the acid heads who live from pill party to pill party.